All right. Comment number 5 comes in from Captain Behab. Via email. Captain Behab says, I am super excited about these Chinese bikes. Not because I want one, but because they will force the Japanese companies to compete with them. The Ibex 450, which is a CF Moto small adventure bike, 450cc engine, as you might have guessed, is a perfect bike on paper, and I can't wait for the inevitable Japanese version. Thank you, CF Moto, for stirring the pot. Interesting take here, Spurge.
So when Zach and I were talking about this one in pre-production, I think my gut reaction here was like, how much more affordable do you expect some of these Japanese manufacturers to make their motorcycles?
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, like you look at like when the Tenere 700 came to market, it was $10,000. You mentioned the Transalp. The Transalp was sub $10,000 or right around $10,000. Yeah. Like I look at some of these middleweight, adventure bikes that the Japanese manufacturers are bringing to market, and I think they're really affordable for what you're getting. Now, maybe he's talking about Kawasaki updating the Versys X100 or something here. I don't know.
Well, no, to be fair, I don't think Captain Behab necessarily said that he or she wants them to be cheaper. I think maybe Captain Behab's point here is that the CF Moto Ibex 450 is a small adventure bike with a 270-degree firing order, parallel twin. It's using technology and design from larger bikes and shrinking it and making it kind of, aggressive. And I don't know. I don't know if what he's saying is I want Japanese bikes to have to compete with the price so much as he's saying, I want you to think outside the box and make and like build these more interesting bikes, because maybe Captain Behab is saying, I don't want to buy a CF Moto 450 because I don't want to buy a bike from China, or I'm not sure if I'm guessing here, but if Kawasaki or Honda built that bike, I'd be like, yeah. And maybe they would be willing to pay more. I'm not sure, but I think this is an interesting point. And one of the bikes that I called out in my trends article that we talked about earlier here was the BMW F450 GS, which this is putting it very simply, but it's kind of a CF Moto Ibex 450, Captain Behab, if you're listening. It's basically a 450. It's a small bore parallel twin, with I think the 270 degree firing order that we've all come to know and love. And BMW is sort of going down that road as well. And there's probably going to be a BMW tax. That bike's almost certainly going to be more expensive if they even make it, than a CF Moto. But there's a whole podcast of conflicting emotions around Chinese companies and bikes built in China and what that can mean. And we've liked some of them and we've disliked some of them. But I'm with Captain Behab here. It's interesting that someone's stirring the pot. I think when you look at it from that point of view, it's interesting anytime somebody's stirring the pot. And what we've seen from CF Moto, across the board has been a little bit of a design departure from some of what is out there, whether it's on the, the dual sport or the sports side. And they are bikes that are, kind of, I don't know, heartwarming in a way that you weren't expecting, and I think they've got dealership network down. They've got, they're going after some of the basics in a way that like, it's going to be really interesting to see what CF Moto becomes as it becomes a more mature company, at least in the United States. I agree.
But it's also going to be really interesting to see what the major key four players do about that. Do they respond? Do they?
You're talking about the Japanese Big Four?
The Japanese Big Four. Are they going to continue to be leaders? Or are they going to try and now feel like they're on their heels a little bit here, and they're going to have to respond? Yeah.
It's interesting, and I think it's a good call. It's a good comment and observation. And I think it's especially interesting from this person because they said, I'm excited about Chinese bikes, not because I want one, but because someone is doing something else in the industry that's going to make other companies react.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what BMW did. Maybe BMW react. Because I personally don't like the BMW G310, the G310 GS, or any of the G310 models. I just don't think it's a strong showing by BMW.
Yeah.
So when I saw that BMW is sort of like making a small adventure bike, but seemingly doing it a little bit more seriously, that was very heartening to me.
Yeah.
So
well,
I think I'm right there with you, Captain Behab.